Alright guys, we're going to be taking a look at the final balance changes for Season 4. A couple of little adjustments they've added in. Let's take a look. First of all, the Cyclone supply cost reduced from 4 to 3. The new Cyclone hasn't been getting that much love on the test map. The Terrans aren't really finding a use for it. Usually just opting for a siege tank instead. We also increased its supply out of caution against mass cyclones going to be prevalent. More recently, we've gotten some high-level feedback that the Cyclone could be too weak due to how the meta has developed. We wanted to have them scale better into the late game. Thus, to improve the Cyclone's mid and late game potential, we are reducing the supply cost so they can hopefully be more easily utilized as support units in a larger army. Cool. I mean, they can like fuck up like Tempests and Carriers, I guess, a lot better than the other Cyclones, right? Maybe they're a mech anti-air option. Maybe, I don't know. We'll take a look. I'm going to be playing a lot of the test map starting tomorrow, guys. Remind me, if you guys see me just laddering tomorrow, be like, hey, bitch, weren't you going to fucking play some test map? Get on my ass about it, because I really want to investigate some of these changes. Now, they are going to make the Thor damage increase from 40 plus 10 massive to 40 plus 15 massive. And they're making it attack faster. So it does even more damage to Broodlords and Carriers and stuff. Now, it's still terrible against Carriers. The Thor does nothing against Carriers. If the Carrier player just releases the Interceptors and then pulls back, they've just got to clump their Carriers up. Thors are worthless versus them. Unless you can flank the Carriers, shouldn't happen. So this will be much stronger against Broodlords, though. They already do okay against Broods, but usually the Broodlords can kind of come in and out of range and kite as well. So having a bit more damage on there is going to be good. The interesting interaction for me is no, it won't. I mean, it doesn't change anything with Vipers. Them sniping Vipers and Corruptors is still going to be the same. Okay. They said they want to push the Thor in a giant that slays other giants. We haven't heard much discussion regarding this focus. Thor's now lower armor. Thor's not able to fulfill this role. Okay, so they're saying like Carriers wreck Thors even more. Will consistently defeat Carriers in one-on-one combat and be more powerful against the new fast-moving Tempests. Nothing's ever going to get in range of the new Tempests. But yeah, it will technically kill them slightly faster. Okay. They didn't want to have it affect its relationship with Broodlords. Okay, so the maths probably works out that having +5 damage, it most of the time, if not all the time, will probably take the same number of shots to kill Broodlords. Okay. So I haven't done the maths on how many hits. I could sit here with a calculator for half an hour, but this would be a very long, very boring video. So what we're seeing there is essentially you've got, this is getting more damage. When the Carriers or Tempests are silly enough to let you get in range, you can do better against them. Not something we're going to see at pro level ever. So pro level, not important at all. Vikings do still outspeed Tempest, says EMC2. Yeah, not by enough though. The Tempest is going to need to have its speed slowed down for sure. I believe. It's so fast. It's so fast. Like, technically, Stim Marines and Vikings are faster than it, but not by much. Not by much. Sensor Tower pre-placement selection display will now show a range indicator on the minimap. How cool is that? So when you're placing this, you're just holding it down. You haven't actually clicked to put the structure down. It's going to show you this big circle in the minimap. So you can place it to make sure it's zoning out the edges of the map where you want to see to. Really cool. Little quality of life change. So, creep spread delay from hatcheries, lairs, and hives. Creep spread delay from hatcheries, lairs, and hives decrease. Wait, what about the creep tumors? Oh, okay. Okay, so Nidus Worm Overlords and most importantly creep tumors are going to be... Okay, so creep tumors are still nerfed with how quickly they spread. But, yeah, okay. How quickly they spread creep. So when you've only got one creep tumor on a path, it will spread slower now. However, hatchery, lair, hive, they've put back to the regular creep spread because things in Zerg vs Zerg, if you wanted to play a gasless opening and your creep takes too long to spread from your hatchery, you won't be able to wall off with evolution chambers in time at the entrance to your natural. Forces you to play Ling Speed and Baneling Tech every game to be safe, which is something a lot of players feel, you know, that would limit the strategic diversity. So that's something they've kind of made sure they kept that the same. So that's cool. The Ultralisk anabolic synthesis upgrade research time reduced from 79 seconds to 43. Okay, cool. Basically just making that movement speed upgrade a little bit more accessible because it is such a small buff anyway. It gives a small movement speed buff to the Ultras they're like, well, it's not actually being used. We want to make sure it gets used. It's such a small thing. So that's cool. Robotics facility is going back to its normal cost. So they're getting rid of the proposed 50 mineral reduction on it. And robotics bay cost reduced down by 50 minerals and 50 gas. They're making Disruptor and Colossi tech, as well as the Speed Prism, a little bit cheaper to get into. So that's cool. Since that is a very expensive tech path, for sure. I think that's okay. Two of these, yeah. We initially proposed reducing the mineral cost of the robo facility for a variety of reasons. Two of these reasons include improving defense against Zerg in the mid-game and improving defense against Terran proxies. Since our initial proposal, however, we've made additional adjustments to the balance test mod such that we no longer believe Protoss needs additional help in these regards. Another goal of the robo facility cost change was to promote more robotics-based openings, but we now believe a different change could be more targeted to achieve this goal. By reducing the cost of the robotics bay instead, we would promote deeper tech options that aren't as common right now, such as Colossi, Disruptors, or speed upgraded Warp Prism openers. This contrasts with the originally proposed robotics facility change, which we believe would have undesirably further reinforced the strength of Immortals in PvZ. We're planning to push the balance changes to live ladder at the start of the next season on Tuesday, November 20th. However, the SysCV single-click priority change will require a patch, so we'll be pushing out this change a little earlier with the SC 2.4.7. Oh, so that's already in there, is it? Thank you for all the support and feedback, and as always, let us know what you think. See you on ladder. Oh! Wait, are we on 2.4.7 now? I love it how they always do these posts and they assume plebs like us actually know what version we're on. So I think that might already be out. Cool. Okay, and then there's a complete list below that. Okay, cool. Yeah. Drilling claws permanently cloaks Widow Mines. Cyclone is reverting to the old school Cyclone. Really random medevac change. Banshee speed being slightly cheaper is cool. They're getting the splash damage off the anti-armor missile. Battle cruisers becoming a behemoth that wrecks Hydras. Engineering bay has Neostrict. Basically, the bunker upgrade is merged with the armor upgrade for buildings, so it's cool. And if a player tries to lift a structure when there's an upgrade being researched in an attached tech lab, the player will not be able to do so and will receive a red text error message. Oh! Quality of life! How did I not notice this change before now? Quality of life. Never again will I accidentally lift my barracks and cancel my stim packs. Never again will Polt in the Grand Finals against Hydra WCS Katowice 2016 Grand Finals cancel his stim just before it's finished while doing a 2-on-1 and then instantly be infinitely behind in that game. Oh my god, that's the most beautiful change ever. So kind. Thank you. I actually have been like pushing. I'm like, if we're giving High Templar auto attacks, I've been like, can we make it so Terran can queue up add-ons? So when you start a barracks, you also tell it to like, you can just be like, that barracks, when it's done, build a tech lab or build a reactor. That's something I really want Blizzard to do, because I just think Terran has too much mechanical shit to do. So I'm like, make it easier, make it easier. Yeah, Zerg, the Queen Transfuse is nerfed, but it's still powerful. It was just bullshit before, in my opinion. So I think it basically, the last 50 hit points of the heal is now spread over 7 seconds. It's still a friggin' insanely good spell for a defensive, unit. Creep Tumor, Nidus Network, Nidus Worm, time between creep growth increased, yep. Overlord Transport, yep, boring. Nothing there. So they are, of course, speeding up unburrow and burrow animations for Zerglings and Hydras, so Zerglings and Hydras can ambush units more. Most importantly, Tunneling Claw Roaches are having their regen halved. Halved. That's right. When there's roaches in your base, say there's 3 roaches in your main, at the moment you send like 8 roaches to go kill that, because if you don't send 8, you'll never kill them. You'll have like 3 roaches hitting a roach and chasing it, and it's just like waddling along underground, just like regenning, and it's like, I don't give a fuck because I regen so fast, and you're like, because they're hitting you at the front at the same time, so you can't even micro it. Then you pull too many roaches away and you die. It's gonna weaken Tunneling Claws a little. It'll still be a great ability. I like that. Just making it a little bit softer, especially after we've seen. I feel like this is a Serral nerf, because Serral is the god of this in Zerg vs Zerg. Infesta unit radius is decreased, model scale decreased. They're making it a little bit smaller so it doesn't just run into shit as much. Infestors can now move through units while burrowed. Now that's going to be big, because then your Infestors can kind of be under your army and throwing out their neural parasite while underneath Hydras and infested Terrans and other things. Fungal growth no longer allow affected units to blink, tack, jump, or load into transports or buildings. So if you fungal battle cruisers, they can't fucking blink away. Isn't that great? That's beautiful. Mutanerf. Mwahaha. Wait, which one's the Mutanerf? What's a Mutanerf? We've got Ultralisk. Yep, Ultralisk speed upgrade. Nidus network cost decrease from 150, 200 to 150, 150. Bangler says it's a nerf to BCs. Good job, Blizzard. Well, they're making it a billion times better. Oh, because the Thors are worse. Right, yeah, that's... Okay, yeah. Because Thors aren't as good versus Mutas, Mutas are going to be way stronger in, which is sick. It's very cool. It's very, very cool. I love it. Nidus Worm's no longer invincible, but it has 6 armor. So Workers, Marines, Zerglings, Zealots all suck at killing Nidus Worms. Your bigger damage units can get through them, though. Like an Immortal will still wreck a Nidus Worm. A tank will still wreck a Nidus Worm. I don't think the new Cyclone should be able to lock on and just kill one, actually, as well. Anyway, Burrow and Unburrowed Zerg unit types will now be on the same tab select. Both will be selected when double-clicking. Now, this is something which is going to force me to fucking fiddle with my hotkeys. I've got to find a different Unburrow key. So I'm going to have to start using like one of my really inaccessible keys is like an Unburrow key. So that's cool. I'm going to have to bite the bullet and do that. In the long term, this should make Burrow and Unburrow micro easier. So like if half your lurkers are burrowed, half are unburrowed, it's way easier to figure that shit out and kind of get that all going. So that should be awesome. Nexus Chrono Boost will now display a visual status. I don't really like it. There's too many bars. Even though it's nice and it's good, I feel like the Nexus looks weird when it has so many bars on it, but I'm sure I'll get used to it and it'll be fine. Now, Mass Recall is much smaller. It's turned into Strategic Recall, but it has a way faster cooldown. So you need to actually clump your units. You can still stack a lot and recall a good little army. It's like a small medium-sized army. If you clump your units up well, especially if you've got flying units, you can recall insane amounts of units. And you can do it more often. So this is amazing for bringing back harassment units that get stuck, amazing for defending small drops and harassments. You want to recall your whole army to get out of dodge, not going to help you as much. I think it's a good change. I think it buffs Protoss in certain scenarios. Obviously, it does weaken them in certain scenarios where they're in a base trade and they really want to just pull their whole army home suddenly. Now, Hallucination becoming cheaper is awesome. It means sentries are going to be more viable scouting options again. And also, Guardian Shield Radius gives a bit more range. Just half a space makes it easier for a sentry to give that shield to your charge lots while they're YOLOing into battle. Especially when you're chasing Stim Bio down. Feedback now only does half a damage point per energy, which means you can't just snap a full energy medevac. At most, you're going to be doing 100 damage to, I believe, 160 hit point unit. I think a medevac's 160. You guys can clarify in chat. So before, if it was full energy medevacs, you could have one High Templar and snap 4 full medevacs. In late game, it was like, man, this is fucking silly. So I think that's really good. It's still a great spell. It's just been toned down a little bit. Dark Templar, they've reduced the blink research time and the cooldown on the blink itself. I'm going to have a field day. I already play DT Blink every Protoss vs. Terran as like my standard macro build. I am going to fucking, I'm going to be laughing my way to the bank with this one. I'm just going to be fucking running around blinking DTs everywhere. It's going to be disgusting. Robo-Bay's cheaper, as we mentioned. Colossi weapon will now have turret tracking, so you can stutter step, and while you're running away, the Colossi will stay tracked onto the enemies. So the moment you turn, it shoots, and you can move again, rather than having to wait for its turret to rotate after you give it the attack command. So much better at doing a sort of fighting retreat now is the Colossi. Void Ray prismatic alignment speed reduction is reduced. So the Void Rays aren't going to be as slow when they turn on their big, thick laser beam. Awesome. Love it. I might try a Void Ray opening in PvT again. That would be really fun. I love a single Void Ray against Terran before they brought in that slow reduction, so I might bring it back. Tempest is a beast. Basically, the Tempest costs less supply, costs less resources, is much more fragile, loses about 175 hit points in total, but it's way faster. Like, way faster. Like, that's more than a 50%. It's like a 40% buff, speed buff and almost double acceleration. What this means is you can stutter step Tempests and just kite down Vikings, kite down even Bio to some extent. You're going to cover a lot more ground before they actually catch up with you. I feel this is the most broken unit in the game, especially against Terran, but even against Protoss, they're going to be much better at evading Corruptors now, which is going to get me a little bit randy. I'm going to be making Tempests every game until this gets nerfed. I enjoy abusing OP things. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be fun. Now, the carrier's redesigned. It builds faster. It's more buff. Interceptors, though, take almost double the time to rebuild. So in between losing a wave of interceptors, you can't just pull back, wait for a base to die, sacrifice it, and then go back in again. You're going to need to wait for 2 bases to die before your carriers are ready to engage again, which is awesome. But there's no Graviton Catapult upgrade anymore. What the fuck? Interceptor release period is increased. So they're making it, okay, well, it shoots a little bit faster than it does now. But I don't know what the stats on Graviton Catapult are. So what is the difference between 0.27 release period and having Graviton Catapult? I don't know. I want to test this unit out in the game and see. I haven't had a chance to extensively test it versus high-level players. I have no fucking idea. What we do know is it's going to make the carrier less gimmicky in that it could engage, use all its interceptors, run away, refill for very little cost, and then engage again a minute later. And it just felt a little bit stupid that you could do that. So I think that's a really nice change to make that a lot harder with the interceptor build time. Make the whole thing a bit easier to get though, whereas carriers take so long to get at the moment. And kind of decrease its overall sudden ability to just massacre an army, but it's got a bit more staying power. If this works and this plays out the way they want it to, it could be really cool. Mothership now, Time Warp will reduce unit and structure attack speed by 50%. Now, if you guys don't realize, Time Warp is still on the Mothership. It's a big fat radius, and you reduce attack speed by 50%. People are going to lose their fucking minds the first time this gets on their army, and they go, oh, it's just Time Warp, and they don't move out of it. And then it goes, and all the units are like, and you're like, oh, that's actually an insanely good spell. Great zoning spell. Not a lot of people will let it land on them too much, but in a big battle, it can be game changing, especially against a big ball of Hydras or something like that. It's a juicy spell, guys. Zerg's trying to roll over you with Hydra Bane. You drop one of these bad boys, they have to disengage. Time Warp's great. Assimilator finally is getting fucking balanced. Jesus Christ. It's had double the hit points of the other races' gas structures for the longest time. It's still going to have 100 more. But at least Protoss won't be overpowered in base trades anymore. Let's be real though. Terran do get lifty buildings. Zerg get bullshit. They can have one tech structure and build units anywhere. They can have more bases. Each race does have their strength. The reason I think a lot of people get angry about the assimilators is people would just build assimilators all over the map in a base trade. They take so long to kill. And this was a buff which came in to stop Reapers from sniping assimilators in 2010 StarCraft. They're like, we need to have more hit points because Protoss have their gas sniped, and then they can't get out tech units and they lose. It's a completely different game. It was a change which made sense at the time and has been terrible ever since then. Only took them 7 years to change it. Thank you Blizzard, I love you. I know it's a completely different team working on it now to back then, but this is something which should have happened a long time. Snoot's been campaigning for it for years. It was just unnecessary. You could build a 900 hit point, 75 assimilator structure pretty much anywhere on the map, and it was gross. My man. My man. Yeah, I use a few different voice packs. I rotate them all the time, guys. So Shield Battery is going to have its health reduced pretty significantly, but it can now also heal units that are lifted by Phoenix. Yeah, that's a little bit worrisome. People are worried about all-ins busting through. That's a little bit soft, that structure. So you're probably not going to use a Shield Battery, maybe even to block Adepts, because that's got so few hit points. No, it'll be okay. It'll still be okay. We'll see. We'll see if that weakens Protoss against rushes. Undecided. I don't know how much this will change things. It will die to Corrosive Biles very easily and Banelings though. So hopefully that doesn't make the structure too fragile. Transform to Warp Gate is now an auto-cast ability, which I just find hilarious. Protoss is too hard, guys. I don't know. It's just funny. Like when I see things like that, this is great. Make the game more accessible. Just do it for Terran as well. Terran's the race that needs it. Terran needs this sort of shit more than Protoss. I think these little changes, the auto attack High Templar, quality of life changes that make the races a little bit easier. It means you need less attention. It's just like we need more of that stuff for Terran, like 100%. You need like add-on swapping and add-on queuing and building placement for Terran. Having to queue workers back to mining after each one, having to drop mules constantly. Like it just takes more actions to play Terran than the other races. So I always have said mechanically Terran's the hardest race. I would love to have a little bit of that strain taken off Terran. I would absolutely love. Personally, it freaked me out because I kept trying to transform warp gates and it wasn't happening. I normally hotkey my gateways. I transfer them, selecting my hotkey, pressing tab, and transforming the warp gates. This is something that's a habit I've built. It's kind of sad we're entering a time in gaming where these habits aren't as meaningful as they used to be, these hard things we worked for. But at the same time, I understand that StarCraft needs to stay present, it needs to stay topical, it needs to stay relevant in a new age of gaming. So I get it. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Hope you enjoyed this little overview of the balance changes. I'm going to be playing a lot of games and putting a bunch up on the YouTube over the next week or two. Catch you guys next time.